ground! Please don't make us do this, please!
Salt Lake City police officers shot and killed a man at this gas station nearly 2 weeks ago. Tonight, hear from the man's family, how frustrated they are over how officers responded to the call.
We're tracking rain and snow to start the week, how long this cold, wet weather will last, and the timing of a warm-up.
Coming off of another good snow year with those warmer temperatures we've experienced and some of the rain that's been falling across the area today, we're going to focus on what could increase or decrease that flood risk moving forward.
A Spanish Fork homeowner made a shocking discovery right here in his driveway. I'll show you what he found.
After 2 outstanding seasons at Utah, Alyssa Peely is headed to the WNBA. I'll tell you which team picked her up in tonight's draft.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. Since January 1st, we've reported on 8 different officer-involved critical incidents around the state. 6 of those involved police firing their weapons. Our content partners at the Salt Lake Tribune report there were 25 police shootings in Utah last year.
Most recently, Salt Lake police shot and killed a man at a gas station nearly 2 weeks ago. It was at a Chevron near 900 South State Street. Today, the department released body cam video that shows the moments leading up to the man's death.
The man's family told Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser officers failed at de-escalating the situation.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a guy over here with a knife trying to stab me from the window.
On April 2nd at 2:30 in the morning, an employee at the Chevron on 900 South and State called 911 in need of help.
He's outside trying to come in.
Is the door locked?
Yeah, it's locked.
When officers arrived, they saw 36-year-old Cameron Cloward walking around the parking lot and sidewalk.
Put the knife down!
Body cam video shows as officers inch closer toward Cloward, he turns around and starts heading their way.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Please don't make us do this, please!
Cloward is holding a pocket knife under his chin.
Get on the ground! You will get shot!
It's been nearly 2 weeks since his death. Cloward's aunt tells Fox 13 News he had autism and was not known for being violent and was completely misunderstood because he was different. She also says she's, quote, always had the utmost respect for law enforcement and the dangers they face, but after watching the police cams, I do not feel they handled this situation appropriately. At one point, you hear an officer request a less lethal shotgun.
Someone get a less lethal shotgun.
The rounds are full of soft pellets, but not every officer has one in their car.
Officers order that person to stop, to comply with their orders. That suspect did not comply, and that is when deadly force was used.
That's department spokesperson Brent Weisberg on the day of the shooting.
This was a very volatile, very rapidly unfolding situation that involved our officers and a person who had a deadly weapon.
The shooting is now being investigated by the Salt Lake County Officer-Involved Critical Incident Protocol Team. All the officers involved, all 4 of them, are placed on administrative leave. Reporting near 900 South and State Street, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Israel's allies are united in condemning Iran's weekend drone and missile attack, while also urging Israel not to retaliate. During a meeting with Iraq's prime minister today, President Biden reiterated the U.S. commitment to Israel's security.
We're committed to a ceasefire that will bring the hostages home and preventing conflict from spreading beyond what it already has.
The Biden administration's message is clear. Israel has the right to defend itself, but should not retaliate for the weekend attack by Iran.
In the 36 hours since, we have been coordinating a diplomatic response to seek to prevent escalation.
We don't want to see a war with Iran, and we certainly aren't looking for a wider conflict in the region.
The UK and France echoed the call against retaliation, underscoring growing international concern about a broadening conflict. The European Union's Foreign Affairs Council is set to meet tomorrow to discuss the situation.
University of Utah law professor Amos Guiora splits his time between Utah and Israel and returned to Israel over the weekend. This afternoon, he gave us a feel for what life is like in Israel right now after the successful thwarting of every one of the 350 missiles and drones that were launched by Iran. He says after the attack, life went back to normal.
At the end of the day, the harm that they caused here is literally minimal. There's one child who was critically wounded, and there's slight damage to an Air Force base. But other than that, there's no damage here, and life is right back full speed. When I arrived this afternoon at the airport, the traffic jam on the way from the airport home was just like any other day. And schools were back, and businesses were back, and people went to the beach, and it's hot outside.
He acknowledges that some people were scared, but this is a way of life in Israel. Guiora says because of the Iron Dome, which protects Israel from incoming missiles, they are able to go back to a somewhat normal life.
Back here at home, we are tracking a disturbing case in Sanpete County. We've learned a man in Ephraim is now behind bars, accused of trying to rape an 11-year-old girl yesterday.
Fox 13 News is not identifying the suspect because they are the next-door neighbor of the victim. But police say the suspect had entered the house to use the bathroom, but then went inside the little girl's bedroom, making multiple attempts at physical contact with her. The girl was able to break away, and the suspect left the house and drove away. Police were called, and officers found him a short time later in Ephraim. Tonight, the suspect is behind bars in the Sanpete County Jail on multiple charges.
Now to an update on a story we first brought you back in December. 45-year-old Justin Epperson has had his case dismissed. He was one of the defendants in the case involving a kitten found abandoned inside a sandwich container. He was originally charged with a felony and 2 misdemeanors. The kitten, named Athena, arrived at a vet clinic weighing just 1 pound and had several wounds. The kitten is reportedly recovering. The case against Epperson was dismissed because of a plea agreement in another case in which he is involved.
The Wildlife Rehabilitation Center of Northern Utah is moving forward with its new home. The organization posted on their Facebook page today showing the demolition of their old building. Meantime, they say the staff and volunteers are working hard to get the new facility ready to open. They say their end goal includes a rehabilitation hospital and education building. If you'd like to donate, go to wrcnu.org.
It's a gloomy and wet Monday for a lot of the state. Tax day on top of that.
I know, that's what I was saying. I was like, it's cold, it's wet, it's tax day, it's a Monday.
Let's get today over with.
Yeah,
yes.
Come on, Tuesday. We're waiting for you.
We're almost done. That's right. All we have to do is go to bed now. Right now here in Salt Lake City, it's still in the 40s. We ended up making it into the 50s today, but we spent much of the afternoon and morning in the 40s. As we look at our temperatures right now here across the state, it's about 40 to 45 for almost all of you, and it has been a soggy start to the week where we're still seeing some of our heaviest precipitation. We've seen several cells moving through Box Elder County producing moderate rainfall, at times Tremont and down through Willard, all the way into Ogden today, more than an inch of rain there. Areas of rain coming down in Utah County, snow up for the Cottonwoods up towards Alta, snow-covered roads right now. And then as we look across southern Utah, we also have a little bit of precipitation that has died down across southwestern Utah. So for us here in northern Utah, our precipitation chances really start to decrease after midnight tonight, becoming much more isolated or unlikely early tomorrow morning. And then we will see a cold front moving through in the middle of this week. We'll have more on that coming up in just a bit.
The WNBA draft was tonight, and a player from Utah was selected in the first round.
Fox 13 Sports Director Jeff Reiner joins us now a few minutes early. Jeff, this is exciting news.
Yeah, Bob and Kelly, after 2 great seasons at Utah, Alyssa Peely was in Brooklyn for the WNBA draft tonight. We knew Iowa star Caitlin Clark was going to be #1, but what about Alyssa? Well, we didn't have to wait long.
With the 8th pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Minnesota Lynx select Alyssa Peely, University of Utah.
Yeah, what a moment for Alyssa Peely and her family. She has represented her Polynesian and indigenous heritage in Alaska during her playing career, and now she's the third Utah player drafted in the first round. Here's what she says she'll miss in Utah.
My teammates and how much time we spent together. I think that's something I'll miss, all the memories and things like that. And definitely the community in Salt Lake City. I think it's really grown on me the last 2 years I was there. And I'm going to miss it a lot because, you know, even though I came from another Pac-12 school, they still took me with open arms and just supported me throughout everything. I'm just looking forward to, you know, just starting this new journey and, you know, hopefully having a great rookie season.
Here's the reaction from her Utah teammates cheering her on to the next level. She transferred from USC to Utah. The Minnesota Lynx, I think, just picked up a lot of fans in Utah and her native Alaska. The WNBA season starts in May, and you can watch games on our sister station, Utah 16.
Jeff, thanks so much. An exciting night for Alyssa Peely and her family.
Congratulations. A Utah man's discovery right in his own driveway. The secret history of his home hiding for years just under his feet.
The Arizona Coyotes are one step closer to moving to Utah, and that move could impact youth sports in all the right ways. We'll show you.
Plus, an update on the Panguitch Lake Dam that left a Utah community on edge.
And the fight against the Little Cottonwood Gondola could gain some new ground. Coming up.
It was suspected that maybe there had been one on the property, but we had no clue where it would have been or is.
I'm Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule in Spanish Fork, where one homeowner made a surprising discovery right here in his driveway. 20 years. That's how long Brian Terry and his family have lived in this Spanish Fork home.
The house was originally built in 1890. It's been an adventure, that's for sure.
Over the years, his family has found little traces of history, like these vintage Coke cans.
We found underneath the house a trap door in the floor. We don't know what it was used for, but it goes from the living room down under the crawl space.
But last Tuesday, he unexpectedly made his biggest discovery yet.
The driveway had started cracking and sloping. I figured it was probably just some runoff under the sidewalk. I was driving over it and a big piece of it fell off, and after I moved out of the way, I was able to look down in the hole, and that was a pretty big hole.
He determined the hole engulfing his driveway was an old well.
It's all lined with rock all the way down. That's how I was able to determine that it was a well instead of like a sewer pod or just a sinkhole.
Brian says when he first found the well, it was about 10 feet deep. Since then, he and his son have filled about 6 feet, but as you can see, they still have a couple feet to go before it's completely filled.
More than likely, the well had been filled up when it was no longer being used, and then at some point the driveway was done, and then over the years that just kind of settled, and that's what left a big void.
While Brian wishes he could keep the well just like those vintage Coke cans, it being in the middle of his driveway makes it a little inconvenient.
It's a cool little old feature of history, and it's just in a really bad spot.
In Spanish Fork, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Jury selection is underway in former President Trump's criminal hush money trial.
18 potential jurors have been called after dozens were excused for being unable to remain impartial. The group of 18 still has to go through another round of questioning before officially being selected. Some of those questions include how they consume news, whether anyone close to them has attended a Trump or anti-Trump rally, if they ever have read any of Mr. Trump's books, and if they have views on how Trump is being treated in the case.
In other national news, the FBI is now investigating the cargo ship that struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore 3 weeks ago, killing 6 people. The investigation of the ship comes amid multiple reports the FBI is opening a criminal investigation into the accident. In addition, attorneys representing some of the victims' families announced their own probe.
Today, 30,000 athletes from more than 100 countries were in Massachusetts for the 128th Boston Marathon. There they go. Former NFL superstar and Super Bowl champ Rob Gronkowski, the Gronk, he served as Grand Marshal today. It's also a somber anniversary of the attack on the Boston Marathon. It was 11 years since the bombing at the finish line that killed 3 people and injured more than 200 others. A bell tolled at 2:49 p.m. Eastern Time, the same time when the bombing happened.
U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas was absent this morning as the court heard oral arguments in a public corruption case. In the past, the court has often provided some explanation, but none was provided today. Thomas, who's 75 and the most senior associate justice on the High Court, missed several arguments in 2022 after being diagnosed with an infection.
A judge in New Mexico has sentenced the armorer of the film Rust to the maximum 18 months in prison. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter last month in the 2021 onset fatal shooting of a cinematographer. Actor Alec Baldwin was holding the gun when it went off, but as the armorer, Gutierrez-Reed was responsible for firearm safety. During the trial, prosecutors argued that she repeatedly violated safety protocols. Meanwhile, defense attorneys said she was being scapegoated for safety failures on set.
The police chief in Uvalde, Texas, has unveiled a new plan to overhaul the department's policies after the deadly school shooting almost 2 years ago that killed 19 students and 2 teachers. The Guardian Initiative, as it's called, will focus on restoring trust and credibility by holding a department-wide review of past actions. It will also prioritize community outreach, increase officer training, review policies, and better equip officers. The announcement comes as the department faces continued scrutiny from parents for its handling of the 2022 shooting. Officers did not confront the gunman for 77 minutes.
Well, in weather news today, we had a lot of rain here in northern Utah. We talked about some valley rain and mountain snowfall in the forecast for today, and potentially some light precipitation on a Wednesday. So we'll have a weak cold front on a Wednesday, a little bit of wind with that, but generally speaking, we've got a nice couple of days ahead of us, and then we will be warming up for this weekend. So our area of low pressure is shifting off to our east. We're still seeing a little bit of precipitation out of that here in northern Utah tonight. That'll be dying down in our overnight hours. Tomorrow will be mainly dry, but by Wednesday, a little weak cold front is going to brush by and bring us the chance for some additional mainly light precipitation. Temps right now, it's been a gloomy and chilly day, below average. 40s right now for much of Utah, 40s for Cedar City, Milford, Delta, Provo, Price, Vernal, Cache Valley. Right at freezing for Bryce Canyon right now, and then into the 60s for St. George. So quite the difference depending on where you are. 38 for Evanston compared to this time 24 hours ago. Temps are about 5 to 15 degrees cooler out across the state. So right now, all of our precipitation is here in northern Utah. We've been seeing the bulk of our heaviest precipitation through Box Elder, Weber, and Davis counties today, and also through Tooele. Right now, Tremont and Plymouth, down towards South Willard, far west, seeing some moderate to heavy precipitation currently coming down. So it's just been a soggy day. We do have some snow-covered roads for the Cottonwood Canyons. And then we head into tonight, things will be dying down. Our winter weather advisories were allowed to expire for the mountains at 9 o'clock tonight. So we're at the tail end of the impacts from this system, and we head into the overnight hours here in Salt Lake. We'll have the chance for some rain through the evening, and then into early tomorrow morning that will be clearing. A little bit of light wind tomorrow, mainly into eastern Utah. Gusts are up towards Evanston, about 30 miles per hour. But then by Wednesday, as I mentioned, a weak cold front moves through, and we see wind, a breeze here across the state, about 15 to 25 miles per hour for much of Utah on Wednesday. But for tomorrow morning, as you wake up along the Wasatch Front, partly cloudy at 8 a.m. Temperatures in the mid-40s. By 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, partly cloudy and into the 50s. So overnight tomorrow morning, we're going to see those temperatures when you first get up, those overnight temps right around sunrise about 25 degrees to 35 degrees for the mountains tomorrow morning. And then for us here in the valleys, 35 to 45 degrees as you wake up tomorrow morning. For the Wasatch Front, mid-40s tomorrow morning, rising into the low 60s. It'll be a nice spring day. And then for St. George, your temperatures will be about 50 when you wake up, with highs tomorrow close to 80 degrees. So across Utah tomorrow, we're going to have our daytime temperatures very close to average or just slightly above average. St. George 78 tomorrow, and then close to 90 degrees starting Wednesday through the rest of the forecast. For Salt Lake, we'll have our temperatures also warming up for this weekend. We'll have more on that coming up in just a bit. We'll be right back.
Week 2 of testimony began this morning in the murder trial of Chad Daybell.
Court TV correspondent Kelly Craft has a recap of today's proceedings from Boise.
Jurors heard words of love and prayer exchanged between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell on Monday. Lori sitting behind bars calling Chad. An hour after that phone call, Chad Daybell is arrested. While in court, Chad Daybell taking notes on a yellow notepad and handing them to his attorney. This as he listened to a phone call between him and his wife Lori as she sat behind bars.
Stay in the house?
No, they're out on the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant.
1 hour after the call, Daybell behind bars for the murder of Lori's children, Ty Lee and JJ. The state called several law enforcement officials Monday who reviewed their investigation. At one point, Chad sits in a patrol car having an emotional conversation with his daughter.
I love you so much.
I love you. Glad you came over.
I thought they had taken you downtown already.
I got them out to the Fremont County line.
And testimony in this capital murder trial resumes Tuesday. That's the latest from here in Boise, Idaho. Kelly Craft, Court TV.
Standing up for the most vulnerable in our community. The Salt Lake County District Attorney has more on why that's so important and the resources to help. I'm Amy Nay in downtown Salt Lake. I'll have that story coming up.
How the Arizona Coyotes' potential relocation to the Beehive State could have an impact on youth hockey.
Public tributes begin for former Salt Lake City Mayor Ted Wilson.
The season is now over for the Utah Jazz. Coming up, we'll hear from 2 of the Jazz rookies on what they expect in their first offseason.
We ended the season with above normal SWE, or that snow water equivalent. I'm going to have a look at the ideal weather conditions that lead to a gradual melting and a gradual runoff of that snow as it continues to melt as those temperatures warm up.
April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, which recognizes the importance of working together and strengthening families to prevent child abuse.
Fox 13 News anchor Amy Nay shares the efforts by law enforcement and others discussed today in Salt Lake County.
At least 1 in 7 children have experienced child abuse or neglect in the past year in the United States.
And Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill says that number is greatly underestimated because of the lack of reporting. He says his office alone filed charges in 500 child sex abuse cases and 900 abuse cases this past year, asking more people still to come forward.
They need us as a community of adults. I would much rather err on the side of caution and save a life than be silent and lose one.
I can't think of anything worse than a child going through a trauma like this to have to go through it again and again and again.
Taylorsville's chief of police begging people to call officers if they see something suspicious.
We try to make these processes as easy as possible.
He says victims meet with specially trained detectives where they share their story and usually will only have to do that one time.
We are able to navigate these cases where most of the time they have to talk to one detective, and that is an environment that is safe. That is in an environment that they feel comfortable.
A psychiatrist from the Children's Center talked about the lifelong negative social, emotional, and physical effects childhood trauma can have on someone's life, identifying symptoms to watch out for.
Challenges with falling or staying asleep due to nightmares.
lower levels of interest in activities that once were enjoyable, or increased irritability and aggression that escalates to the point of jeopardizing a child care placement.
In addition to the resources available at the Children's Center, there's Camp Hope, a week-long summer camp held by the DA's office with trauma counselors and more for about 6 victims and survivors.
That camp's been great for them.
Yvonne Argyle's twin daughter and son have attended the past 4 years.
They said it gives them freedom. They can get to be who they are without any worries. And it does give them back the power to be a kid again.
The DA showing a picture he keeps in his office as a reminder of the importance behind what they do.
Norland was systematically tortured, violated, abused, and ultimately succumbed to being killed by his own mother.
A case his office prosecuted last year after 4.5 years working on it.
This kind of violence, no matter who you commit it to, will never be tolerated, especially against the most vulnerable in our community.
Camp Hope and the Children's Center we heard from today are actually operated within the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office. But there are programs similar to those and many resources offered in counties all across our state. Reporting in downtown Salt Lake, Amy Nay, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The Arizona Coyotes now one step closer to moving to Utah. Today, sports news site Sportica reported the NHL's executive committee has approved the relocation.
Next, the league's Board of Governors will take a vote. As for how Utah will accommodate the team, Fox 13 News has learned the Salt Lake City Council will meet tomorrow to discuss the next steps. The Utah legislature passed a bill this year to let the city create a special downtown tax district to help fund a new arena and other downtown upgrades around the Delta Center. But it's not certain the council will actually raise taxes. They'll have a series of public hearings before deciding what to do.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold has been speaking with players, coaches, and program managers about how the move could impact youth hockey here in the state.
He has the story from the Peaks Ice Arena in Provo.
How do you love hockey?
Because of my dad and how fun it is.
On the ice at Peaks Ice Arena in Provo on Monday, you will find 11-year-old Zane Madsen, a goalie for the Ogden Mustangs. What's the best part about being, in the crease with pucks flying at you?
Making insane saves.
To Kerfoot to the front, they scored! With the Arizona Coyotes potentially relocating here to the Beehive State, it is only adding to Madsen's passion for being on the ice.
Great. There's never been an NHL team here.
I think it's great for the region. I think there's a lot of growth here in hockey that we can have.
Megan Osler, the youth hockey coordinator for the Peaks Ice Arena, says you don't have to look too far to see the impact the NHL has had on youth hockey in other cities.
I think you can kind of correlate that to the growth in Vegas. They had about 400 kids in their youth hockey program, and then when the Knights came, it went up to 4,000.
I think it's going to be colossal. One, just from the growing kids seeing an NHL game, being around an NHL atmosphere, it's electric.
Dusty Campbell is the owner of Next Gen Athletics. Campbell, a former college hockey player, created his business a year ago to help concentrate on fully encompassing the athletic development of the youth, from their movement on the ice to their basic foundational strength and conditioning. According to USA Hockey, there were a little more than 4,000 players in Utah from age 6 and below up to age 19 and above during the 2022-2023 season. It's something Campbell believes will only grow with the NHL being right here in our backyard.
Oh, I think it's only going to keep skyrocketing. And I was at the state development camp the other week watching some kids try out for the national development team. And one of the guys said that Utah has more kids in youth hockey than it ever had.
For the youth like Madsen, who would get to see pro hockey up close, why would that be so great?
Because maybe I could play in the NHL.
Well, it's really great to see kids like Zane, even his younger brothers Axe and Mac, dreaming big and dreaming of the pros. But of course, nothing is a done deal quite yet. We're expecting an official announcement of the Arizona Coyotes relocation here to Utah coming later this week. In Provo, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
In the wake of the passing of former Salt Lake City Mayor Ted Wilson, his family reflects on his life and legacy. Hear from them coming up.
And a series of legal challenges to the proposed gondola in Little Cottonwood Canyon could be combined into a mega lawsuit. We'll walk you through the court filings.
Welcome back. The Department of Natural Resources says conditions continue to improve at the Panguitch Lake Dam. The state says the dam is now stabilizing. The water level is down 15 inches from when mitigation work started. Crews continue to draw down water to fully assess the damage, but they say there is less risk now to communities downstream. Cracks appeared in the top portion of the dam last week, prompting a lot of concern. The city of Panguitch was put on standby to evacuate if conditions had worsened.
There are 3 different lawsuits against Utah's Department of Transportation challenging the decision to pursue a gondola in Little Cottonwood Canyon, but now they could all be combined into one. Salt Lake City and Sandy are suing, arguing a gondola could hurt the watershed. Friends of Alta claim the gondola project would hurt views, and Save Our Canyons accuses the legislature of some backroom dealing. In court filings obtained by Fox 13 News, a federal judge is being asked to combine all 3 lawsuits into a single mega lawsuit, with the argument the lawsuits present a clear, common question.
People loved my father, and he had an impact in so many different walks of life.
Public tributes continue for a major figure in Utah politics who passed away last week.
Ted Wilson was a 3-term mayor of Salt Lake City and a public servant who transcended political parties. Members of his family are remembering him and reflecting on his legacy.
Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow spoke with them today.
He loved Salt Lake City, but he loved the state as well. He loved people.
In the Salt Lake City and County building, a memorial has been set up to remember Ted Wilson, who died last week at age 84. His family also gathered to reflect on his life and legacy.
A lot of gratitude that has come along with the grief, so we're just grateful for everything that he did for us.
He was my best friend. He was my muse. He helped me when I had writer's block frequently, and I will miss him, and I'll be talking with him every day for the rest of my life.
But before he was Mayor Wilson or a politician, he was their loved one.
Growing up here was so much fun, and my dad was so much fun. He was just a really, really fun dad. He showed up.
I think more than political associates, it's been the students that have come up to me over the years that have said, your dad changed my life.
His childhood was very humble. He came from not much money. His father died when he was 14, and he had to basically take over the home and help his mother, and he learned a lot of really valuable lessons through that, and learned that you don't have to fight with people all the time to get what you want.
Ted Wilson was a significant figure in Utah politics. After serving 3 terms as Salt Lake City mayor from 1976 to 1985, he led the University of Utah's Hinckley Institute of Politics. He was also a mountaineer and outdoorsman. As evidenced by the public tributes from all political stripes, he transcended party lines. The Democratic mayor was often called on by Republican governors to serve and negotiate tough issues facing Utah.
My dad was larger than life. I want people to remember him for the legacy he leads and how fair he was in politics and how he listened to everybody.
He just wanted people to get involved. He wanted people to be part of processes. He wanted people to make a difference wherever their belief systems were.
He was a master at understanding different points of view, better than anybody I can think of, and he always had the ability to, whether it was different political parties or just even different perspectives, he always understood how to empathize, how to understand.
A public memorial service is being planned for May 17th at Rice-Eccles Stadium. In Salt Lake City, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, it was a wet and cold Monday here today. 54 degrees was our high, but we spent a lot of the day in the 40s with areas of heavy rainfall when our storm will clear out and also when we could return back into the 70s.
The season is over for the Utah Jazz, so what's next for the team as they enter the offseason? And how about the rookies? How will they feel going into their offseason, their first ever? We'll hear from 2 of them coming up in sports.
I'm meteorologist Allison Krogan with Utah's Weather Authority. I'll have your full forecast in just a moment, but first, coming off another snowy season, we're now preparing for the spring snowmelt. Meteorologist Chris Nunley checked out Sugar House Park today. He tells us about the flood potential going forward as our temperatures continue to warm.
After a record snow and water year last year, this season wasn't too bad either. We ended the season with above normal snowfall and above normal SWE, and that means the water is starting to flow as we've seen those warm temperatures and that rain on top of the snow. So the SWE, or that snow water equivalent, peaked at 18.8 inches on April 2nd of this year. This means if we melted all that snow down into water, it would equate to just under 19 inches of liquid water. The normal is 16 inches, so we're nearly 3 liquid inches of water above normal. As we transition into the warmer season, the concern becomes that liquid water and just how gradual the snow melt is, and whether or not heavy spring rain falls on top of the melting snow, potentially locally increasing that flood risk.
Any system that rolls in, especially in the springtime, that's when rain on snow events can have a higher impact in Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. And that always can bring a flooding concern, because if you have a snowpack that's already melting, that means that it's going to have the soils wet, and the rivers are already going to start to be responding to that snow melt. And when you put any bit of rain on a system that's already primed, then that really increases the opportunity for flooding.
Currently over concerned with the flood potential during the spring melt, but ultimately Mother Nature has the final say. To mitigate the flood potential, ideally Utah experiences a gradual warm up with highs getting mild in the afternoon and overnight lows falling back to freezing in the mountains, allowing for a slow trickle effect of runoff into the rivers, creeks, and streams, and eventually into the reservoirs, and ideally no heavy rainfalls on top of that melting snow, which can lead to rapid runoff, increasing the flood risk. As of April 15th, the reservoirs in Utah, if you exclude Lake Powell and Flaming Gorge, are sitting at 85% of capacity. The same time last year, we were at 55%, so 30% higher as of April 15th. At Parley's Creek in Sugar House Park, Fox 13 Utah's meteorologist Chris Nunley.
Well, temperatures today below average as our low pressure exits into tomorrow morning. High pressure will briefly build, and then we also have a weak cold front that's going to brush by on Wednesday, bring us the chance for some light precipitation in northern Utah, valley rain, mountain snowfall. But generally speaking, we are going to be heading into a comfortable spring pattern. Yes, the chance for a few spring showers here or there, but generally speaking, we're going to be dealing with temperatures very close to average for this time of year. And as we look at the forecast for tomorrow, we're back into the 60s. It'll be a nice spring day, partly cloudy sky, a little bit of a breeze, and then with the weak cold front on Wednesday, we will see breeze a little bit stronger, about 10 to 20 miles per hour. But for temperatures right now, getting ready for bed on this Monday night, it was a gloomy Monday. It was tax day. It was chilly. We had a lot of rain here in the valleys, especially for the northern Wasatch Front up towards Ogden. We are going to see that weak cold front Wednesday, and then we will be warming up for this weekend. Right now here across northern Utah, we still have some heavy precipitation coming down up towards Box Elder County, Tremont, and down through Layton. Right now we're seeing some areas of heavy rainfall. That will be decreasing after we get to about 4 a.m. tomorrow. And then we'll see our temperatures at 7 a.m. about 35 to 45 degrees for almost all of you. And then temperatures tomorrow rising into the 60s here across the state. So the chance of precipitation in Ogden is isolated. So still for Tuesday and Wednesday, some isolated chances are possible, but for the most part, a pretty dry 7-day forecast. For Provo, your chance of precipitation tomorrow, isolated, same thing Saturday night. And then for St. George, your chance of precip very, very low over the next several days. Tomorrow, sunny, 78. And then your temperatures just really crank up. Starting Wednesday, you're about 85 to 90 degrees Wednesday through the rest of the 7-day forecast. For the Wasatch Front, we are going to be close to 60 to 65 through the rest of this work week. Partly cloudy sky Tuesday, Wednesday, the chance for some isolated showers, but that would be generally very light precipitation. Thursday, sunny, 60 degrees, By Friday, mid-60s, and then temperatures close to 70 to 75 heading into this upcoming weekend. So we do have a very nice weekend ahead of us. Our chance of precipitation here in Salt Lake also very low for Tuesday, Wednesday. Some isolated chances, so worth pointing out, but nothing that I would change your plans for. Partly cloudy sky on Sunday, lows 70s, mid-70s to start next week, so it'll be quite different than our experience with this Monday today. But our temperatures are on the rise from here on out.
The season came to an end for the Utah Jazz on Sunday with the loss to the Golden State Warriors. The Jazz ended up with the 8th worst record in the NBA at 31-51. But it was a free fall for the Jazz after the trade deadline, winning just 5 games in their final 30 games to finish the season, moving out of the playoff contention and into the draft lottery. The Jazz are in the 8th spot in the draft lottery, giving them a 6% shot of moving up to the number 1 spot, more likely a 24% chance at staying at 8 and keeping their top 10 protected pick this year to go along with another late first-round pick and an early second-round pick. The biggest offseason move will involve Lauri Markkanen. The Jazz can sign him to a long-term contract extension. They also need the rookies to find motivation to get better.
I think the motivation for me, honestly, is going to be watching these playing games. That's kind of where we was throughout the whole year, and conversations with Will and everybody. That was the goal. It was hunting the postseason, and of course things happen, but I understand that I got a lot of room to grow. I'm going to watch the playoffs and, get ready for year 2.
I'm proud of the team for sticking together through such a rough year. The locker room has always been high energy and positive. We've always had each other's back, and we kept fighting throughout some hard times. So I'm proud of the whole group.
We'll be right back.
Finally, the Layton Temple of the LDS Church is about ready to be dedicated, but before that happens, they're going to have an open house. It's at 1400 Oak Hills Drive in Layton. Open house starts this Friday and it will run every day except Sunday through June 1st. Then the dedication is on the 16th of June.
Anybody can go inside during
Anybody
that open
can
house.
go in. Anyone can go in before the dedication.
Thanks for watching tonight, everyone.
QuickCast is up next.